right, so as I mentioned in the previous video about split tooth, I'm behind. So I'm doing all of my reviews in one day. The main reason that I am behind has to do with just being felled once again with my chronic illness. Um, I guess in some ways it's a positive thing because I did go to the doctor and he is completely stunned and he is referring me to a specialist, but it looks like I'm getting worse because I'm getting better, which is complicated, to be sure. He doesn't know how to deal with it, so I am kind of trying to cope with it on my own for the moment, and that has been challenging to say the least. And so there was something of a theme in some of my reading this month, including my next read, which was this delightful little book called The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating. And it is little, which is lovely. When you are sick and you can barely hold a book, this, the world needs more of these books for sick people, I gotta say. It's a very small book physically, and it's a short book too. It's not even 200 pages, I don't believe. Yep, it's less than 200 pages. And it's by Elizabeth Tova Bailey. She wrote this book after her own illness, but she was ill for several decades, I believe. She also had a mysterious, well, hers was mysterious. Mine is unfortunately a fairly common affliction. Hers was apparently quite different and difficult to diagnose, but it was also an autoimmune disease. And the story is just that a friend had brought for her a snail. A friend who had gone wandering in the woods had noticed a snail and had brought it in. And she just develops this whole relationship with this snail because anybody who's been ill and bedridden for long periods of time, as any of you know, it can be quite mind-numbingly boring. I mean, it's a little easier now because we have the internet and you can waste a lot of time falling asleep watching movies. Um, but there is only so many movies and so many books that you can listen to and read. And yeah, so this is just kind of her meditation on her relationship with that snail. She has some lovely gems in here. I'm gonna look for it. One of my favorite quotes is in this. One moment. Um, it's on page 131 that I'm quoting from. This really struck me. This was such a moment of, and it's wonderful when you can find a book or an author who can do this, who can just suddenly make you feel like, I'm not alone in this experience. And so this is one of my very, very favorite quotes from there. There is a certain depth of illness that is piercing in its isolation. The only rule of existence is uncertainty, and the only movement is the passage of time. Even if you are still who you are, you cannot actually fully be who you are. And the people you know well withdraw. And then even the person you know as yourself begins to change. And that has definitely been true of my experience over the last 8 years or so. But there is some relief when you discover that somebody else has also had that experience. And you suddenly also, in a way, feel a little bit foolish because you realize so many other people have had that experience and are having that experience, or unfortunately will have that experience. And it's a beautiful thing when someone is able to write about that and make it so that it can become a more common experience rather than an isolating experience. I highly recommend this book, even if you are someone who loves nature and is if you are someone who, when you walk through the woods, you notice little things. Like I'll sometimes notice ants scurrying about. I don't know why. And I'll be like, oh, I wonder where they're going. And then they'll lead me to something totally fascinating. And if you're that kind of a person, you will love this book. Also, if you are ill or you know someone who is ill, it's really a lovely, short little read. I would also say if you are a gardener, this would be an excellent book. If you or somebody that you know is a gardener, definitely, highly, highly recommend. I'm not totally sure how many cups of tea I rated it. I think four or five. I'm just sitting here in the moment. I really can't think of anything that I didn't enjoy about this book. So, yeah, that's about all I have to say about that one, I think. Enjoy. Happy reading.